Welcome to our video on living in Indonesia and what to look out for when you are looking for a place to live.
We are Matt and
Monico.
and currently living in the Netherlands with our 7-year-old son. But we're planning to move abroad also. In our videos, we share our past living abroad experiences and all the new things we learned for our next move abroad. If you want to move abroad too, but are wondering how to finance it, check the links in the description below to see how we plan to do this.
So let's go back to how to find the ideal place to live in Indonesia. In our previous video on housing, we showed you what types of housing there are and what you can expect to pay per month or per year. We particularly focus on Jakarta and Bali as this is where most expats move to.
Yeah. In this video, we are going to give you tips on what to check before agreeing on renting your Indonesian dream house. The tips are based on our own experience of living in Indonesia.
Yeah, we believe that these tips are crucial because living in Indonesia is not similar to, let's say, the US or Europe. There are other factors and natural elements that you will need to deal with when living in Indonesia that are pretty irrelevant from where you are coming from. So, let's get started.
Yes. Check the surroundings of the house. So, when you have found your place, you're probably going to be relieved and want to start processing the contract as soon as possible. But before you do, walk around the neighborhood. Once we were looking at a nice house, we suddenly heard the mosque calling out for the afternoon prayer.
Yeah, we are okay hearing this 5 times a day, but this one was just an alley away from the house we were looking at. It was extremely loud and I could not imagine waking up to it every morning. So as you can imagine, the house wasn't an option for us.
No. Be aware of water damage. When you are inspecting the house, make sure you look out for humidity stains. If you find some, ask if they are aware of it and if the leakage has been repaired. You don't want to be searching for buckets on a rainy day, that's for sure.
Plus, search for stains near the walls along the floor. Jakarta is prone to floods, and if the house is built somewhat lower or in a just unlucky position, then you would want to know if you have to put your precious belongings a bit higher up during the rainy season.
Yeah, floods can be pretty intense in Indonesia. It isn't a joke. So, it can reach even half a meter. When floods are predicted, many people in Jakarta park their cars high up in the garages of the many malls. It can get that serious, huh?
Yeah. And in Bogor, our house was luckily higher up the street. Plus, it was surrounded by grass. A green garden helps against floods too. So you will see a lot of houses that are huge with no garden and only have a cemented car park area. Yeah. As you can imagine, if the whole property is cement and concrete, the water can't go anywhere and it will enter the house.
Yeah. Another one, check if all facilities work. It's obvious, I know, but first of all, check the water pressure during the inspection. It is very normal that the pressure is very low. That's why showering with a bucket from a tub is so great in Indonesia. You will see this often in Indonesian bathrooms. There will be this huge kind of bathtub or buckets filled with cold water. You are not supposed to jump in this so-called tub. Instead, use the small bucket that is there to rinse yourself. The water is cold but refreshing and we like taking showers like this.
Yeah, definitely. Also check if the hot water boiler works for the shower and check if the air conditioning is working and ask when it was last serviced. We also like to have windows with mesh and bars. It sounds like a prison, but the mesh ensures that no insects and rodents can come in, and the bars, which are usually beautifully decorated with flowers and other designs, are just an extra sense of safety when having all the windows open.
Yeah.
So check if the mesh isn't broken and if the bars are well maintained, so no rust and that they can open and close properly.
Yeah, very important. Another one, location of the house in a housing complex. When living on Java Island and Sumatra Island, we enjoyed living in housing complexes. Often, the streets around the house are pretty quiet and there isn't too much traffic. The best location for a house is of course at a dead-end street. So you are definitely sure traffic is at its minimum.
Also, after seeing numerous houses, we also recommend searching for an area or housing complex that is somewhat older. New housing complexes are often characterless and even a bit sad looking. Older neighborhoods often have variety of houses and more mature trees, making it look more inviting.
If you are concerned about safety, choose a gated community with security at the entrance and exit points. In some housing complexes, there is security staff who check and monitor the area often. Also, housing complexes can be massive, Of course, the further down the complex, the more quiet it can be, but there are times that it's just too far. So you always need a car or a motorbike to go to the first shop. Plus, it can even take you up to 20 minutes or something, to get to the entrance. So double check what you prefer.
Check internet availability.
Yeah.
Make sure you know if the internet is included and check if the speed is good or not. Internet connection is pretty fast and somewhat stable in Jakarta and Bali. So if you have an online business that you must rely on when working at home, double check how the internet is at that house.
Yeah, very, very important. Okay, another point. Is it furnished or not furnished? It's pretty tricky to go either for a furnished or a non-furnished house. I think it all depends on how long you plan to live there and what your interior design standards are. I can imagine that it will make it a bit more difficult to find a furnished house that fits your taste. But then again, you can imagine how much extra cost it will be, to furnish an entire house.
So far, we initially would go for a furnished house.
Yep.
The things that you don't like can easily be replaced, so you don't immediately need to use a huge part of your budget for the house. There are many other costs you will need to think of when you have just moved to Indonesia.
Alright, another point which is very important, animal control. Living in the tropics comes with other types of animals you are used to. Yes, there is the fly and the mosquito, but living in Indonesia, there's a lot more. Some are part of life and you can't do anything about it, such as the little lizards on the wall called chicha or the bigger gecko called tokek. They are helpful against little flies and insects because they eat them. Pretty good. You need to always cover your food though, to avoid their poop from falling into it. But that's just a minor detail.
Good point.
Yeah.
But there is another animal that you just don't want to have in your house, and that is the rats. In Indonesia, they don't have these tiny house mice, but they have huge rats. Usually they become a pest at housing complexes or busy areas. Of course, there are ways to avoid them, for instance, by keeping food away. Perhaps a cat can help, although I'm not sure if the Indonesian cats will help, since they are often not much bigger than the local rats.
Yeah, that's right. But when renting a house, check for droppings in cupboards and in corners in outdoors. Outdoors they often have these kitchen areas, so please double check. Also check if the neighbors have a clean looking house, that there's not a running river behind your house, because rivers can carry a lot of trash. Also make sure that your house is not near an area where you are allowed to leave your household trash. Yeah. Also make sure that the house next to you is not empty. Often people dump trash in the garden of empty houses, attracting rodents, and the quick plant growth is a perfect place for little animals to hide. Make sure you have a written contract. Not all property owners will offer a rental contract. There are many cases where a deal is made through verbal agreement only. Even if the owner doesn't feel bothered to make a contract, insist on having one, because obviously it's the best to seal a deal by signing a contract with the property owner.
Also, ask the house owner to help you hire maintenance staff who can take care of repairs, upkeep and other tasks. They often worked on the house before and are already familiar with the house.
Yeah, that's more or less what we have learned about housing after living in Indonesia. We hope it will give you enough food for thought and that you know what to look out for when searching for your new home in Indonesia.
If you like the information we have given you in this video, please feel free to press the like button or leave a comment behind. If you have any questions, you can also leave them below this video.
Yeah, that's right. And don't forget to subscribe to see more videos that we are planning to post soon. Thank you so much for watching and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.